My name is Norbert Kovac. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm one of the business development managers at Oasys. Today, you're going to see, as I say, some of you might already know me, but we also have three presenters who I'm going to introduce in a second. But before I do, just a few words about Oasys, in case you're not familiar with Oasys. Oasys stands for Ove Arab Systems, and we're Arab's in-house software developer. We provide digital solutions for structural engineering and geotechnical engineering, as well as pedestrian simulation. Being part of Arab, as an independent company, means we can focus on delivering leading engineering solutions. And with that, let's start talking about Giraphe. So who's going to talk about Giraphe today? We have Mark Skinner. He's our product portfolio manager, who I hear his camera stopped working, so you might not see him, but you will hear from him. We have Raul Perulero Serrano. He's a product manager. And Matthew Brown, he's a senior geotechnical engineer from Arab. And with that, I believe I will be handing over to Mark. Mark, over to you.
Thanks, Norbert, and I'm going to take control. But what I will do is just I'm sitting next to Norbert, so I'll just say hello quickly on his screen. But yes, about a minute before the webinar, my camera has failed, so I'll go incognito, as it were. Fantastic. Right. So my job is to introduce firstly what we're going to cover today. So here's our agenda. We're going to do a quick recap on Giraphe. What is Giraphe? We'll recap that. I'm then going to hand over to Raul, who's going to show you a lot of the new things we've built into Giraphe over the last 6 months or so, which is obviously the key thing today. We'll just then, after that, think about what that actually means in terms of using Giraphe, what benefits that brings. We're then very lucky to have a couple of guest speakers, Arab engineers that have been using Giraphe on real projects, and they've sent us some videos that explain how they found it. So we'll show those, and then we'll do a quick roundup and have some questions. So yeah, that's the agenda. So straight into what is Giraphe. So we've got a slide here, which essentially is Giraphe in one sentence. It's a dynamic geotechnical graphing integration for OpenGround, Seequent Geotechnical Information Management System. So thinking first of all about the site characterization workflow, this is how I like to sort of position Giraphe. Hopefully this is a workflow you're all familiar with. There's a core geotechnical workflow, and going from left to right, you would be out on site, getting some data from site. Might be out there yourself, but yeah, there'll be data coming from site, understanding the site. That would go into a data management system, OpenGround, where it is stored and manipulated, and things can be done with it from there. Typically, then that data is it's visualized. You would plot it up to try and understand that data, get into it, and then taking that a step further, you would then interpret that, the fourth tile there, into parameters that can then be used in a meaningful way in design or to characterize the properties of the soils, that sort of thing. And typically, at the moment, that's all written up in a GIR, Geotechnical Interpretive Report, on the right there. Maybe you'd present it. There are other options. So Giraphe is focusing on that graphing part. That's where Giraphe sits. Moving on to the next slide. So in slightly more detail, I guess, about what Giraphe is. There's a few key things I want to emphasize. So we've built Giraphe in partnership with Seequent. It's been built from scratch to work with OpenGround. So it connects very seamlessly to OpenGround, pulls the data needed to plot those well-known geotechnical graphs, and then stores them for you, and allows you to work with them. So it's all cloud. You log in from a web browser, nothing to install or anything like that. And really, it presents to you a library of geotechnical graphs. That library is expanding over time. You'll see a few new graphs in there presented later on. But as well as having a library, we also provide a facility for navigating your own OpenGround project. So we're aware that in theory, every project could be different. You might have custom fields in there. So Giraphe allows you to navigate the groups and fields, pull the data you want to, assemble it yourself, and then plot that via a custom graph as well. So hopefully that provides best of both worlds there. So we put a lot of effort into making Giraphe really easy to use. Some of the tiles here are showing some of the ways that we help with that. So there's documentation, as you'd expect, but there's also parts of Giraphe that present videos, how to do specific things in Giraphe. Hopefully make it nice and easy to pick up. So hopefully that will come across. All right, so that's a very brief overview of what Giraphe is. Graphing, dynamic graphing for OpenGround. Jump on to the next slide. So the bigger picture, in terms of taking another step back, framing this whole process of being in the cloud and pulling data across from one piece of software to another. So we're trying to get across on this side is what is enabled by the technology that is coming through. So over the left there we've got cloud. The software does the hard work for you essentially, because the processing is done away from your machine. We take care of that technical aspect. It's also universal, so it's not. What we mean by that is that you can access it from any type of device. It doesn't matter what operating system you're on, and hopefully by its nature it's secure and resilient as well. It's connected, so very much on the theme of making use of the data once it's in OpenGround. We're not forcing you to copy it out and then putting into a new piece of software to plot those graphs. It just grabs the data and does it for you. It's all connected, and that's really good for collaboration as well. And you'll see later on there's some functionality around sharing that really highlights that. And lastly, user-centered. So it's really easy to learn to use, and hope that it lets you focus on the engineering, understanding the data and understanding what that data means, rather than spending all the time assembling it and graphing it up. Maybe it sort of just takes care of it for you. Okay, so that's a very bigger picture. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Raul to show you some of the exciting new features.
So what's new? We've got tons happening, and more things will be happening in future. But at the moment, filtering is there, and what it allows is some key functionality in which you might have your data set, be really big data sets, and allowing you to get from all those variables that you're pulling from OpenGround, is each of them giving them the right type of filters, so you can then visualize your data and make sense out of the data, and then get into the interpretation side of things. Filters work with categories, for example, the geology codes, also work with numerical values, and we also work with dates, so you'll see those in a second. More data and CPTs. We've been working hard on getting over a limit on the API of 250,000 rows of data when we're extracting that, and just making sure that you get the whole data for you to explore within the confines of Giraphe. And that helps in particular for CPTs, as they are known for being data intensive data sets that can range from a few hundreds, from hundreds of thousands of rows of data that you might get in your projects. Sharing and reusing, in this particular, with this functionality, we've started with a relay mechanism by which users can collaborate on the same collection of graphs. We can edit and we can share, edit, or read-only writes, and then users can create templates and can reuse those graphs in different projects, allowing that collaboration within the project and within different projects, also within the organizational context, for example. With trend lines, we started with an approach on manually adding some those lines that probably typically some of you might have done on a piece with a piece of paper and a pen, and just adding that engineering knowledge and judgment on your decisions for deriving parameters. We are going one step forward with that, and apart from those that you might end up doing as well to help you with that, informing those decisions, we started also with least squares regression. So you can just clicking a button on the visualization of the data you've got on screen, then you can get that best line, best fit line. Multigraph creation, trying to help on speeding up things, making life easy, and saving you time, and focusing on the data rather than on the process itself, is the multi-creation of graphs, and that also means like the cloning, but also means the data sets, the different operations around the interface that help you achieve more with doing less clicks. And then in terms of custom templates, so that's our first step on giving you more control on how you want to present those graphs in your reports and then to your clients. So move forward from there. We'll take a look directly on some recordings here. So about filtering, I mentioned that you can see on the screen there was the eye and the pen and the other icons. That's just to demonstrate what type of what type of permissions one can have. But jumping on the filters themselves, we've got here the ability of, for example, SPT values. You've got the checkboxes, and that can be a bit tedious. So one thing we've implemented is a slider, so that allows a single range between two minimum maximum values, and you can add different types of filters as long as they belong, as long as they exist, those variables within them. Within the queries, the OpenGround queries that you have created, either coming from templates or if you have them created manually, which you can have your own custom fields inside your projects, your data schema, otherwise known as that. Same with the geology, the geology code that can have different names in different regions, and basically just trying to help you quickly with a few clicks, just make more sense out of your data. And then just swapping for a different type of graph. That was a standard presentation test, typical graph. This is about potential groundwater monitoring, where instead of having a numerical, it is still a numerical value, but it's a date. So instead of having to input that manually, we are helping you with a date picker, and you can just choose that for the interval data range that can come. Sometimes doing it minute by minute, and sometimes you get every week, month, depending on the frequency of the monitoring that you might be looking after. Now moving on to trend lines, there's quite a few things to show around here. So trend lines, we as mentioned earlier, this is a bulk density plot where we've got depth against the variable. You start adding your trend line by clicking on that top right button there. You can change the name just to make sure you know which one you've used for the different ones. You can add different trend lines as well. We've got different line definitions. We started with the start and end point, and then we also have the change to gradient intercept. As you can see, you can just grab the handle and then you put it at a convenient place. You can show that label, lock the label, so then it goes it's ready for being exported. And you can either show the equation that is derived from what you've input manually, or you can choose to have an annotation on a manual annotation in that same text box. And the next thing you can do in here is adding further trend lines. And by doing so is just to demonstrate in this particular case, apologies, 1 second. Yes, what happens is we've clicked on that button, which is fit the visible points. And in this particular case, you get reported. In this particular case, the leading variable is X or Y, and the best least squares fit is also providing the R square value, just to give you an idea of how good is that fit. Now, those trend lines are applicable to the data is visible on the screen and have memory. Now, to make sure that you are then, once you start narrowing down the data, one thing you can do is I'll add those filters as shown before. And once that's happened, then you can click again on the feed visible points. And as you can see, that equation has changed. And one last thing that you can do as well is on the editing side of things, those two look quite similar. They highlight they are responsive, but one thing that we've also implemented now to make sure that you can discern them properly when you're going on the reporting side of things is you can add your own color. And we've got the hexadecimal at the bottom. You can also choose from that particular palette, change of the thickness as well. Those trend lines also plot on top of the data to make sure that the decision making is more important than, or is more relevant than the data behind. And what just wrapping up on trend lines is it's added the functionality then to go to the export side of things, and from there move on to a report. So CPT is large data sets. So that's not just for offshore projects, but also for onshore energy projects, for example, where you can get lots and lots of this particular type of test data. We have different types of data sets from live projects, from dummy test data, and we've been just seeing the interaction. And what we found is that some of those larger data sets we've managed to crunch those and get those ready for you to visualize inside the interface. This is showing just the multi-creation of three data sets for the CPT in particular, and then the other two smooth, what we call the smooth templates, which basically is doing averaging over depth in bins of 50 and 100 millimeters, and this. It might be slightly difficult to see here. I'm just pointing there to a few of examples which have of these jagged profiles, and the moment of moving from the raw data to the 50 millimeters. So nothing much changed. Is some of those peaks have been attenuated again by doing that averaging. And what the averaging is doing is basically allowing you to digest more data within the interface. The moment you have too many of those lands together, anyway, it just looks like a cloud. But with the filtering and with the ability of using those smooth templates, you should be able to get more out of Giraphe and get ready for those for interpretation. So by parallel graph creation, we just mean once you're inside the collection environment, you can, and for example, in this particular case, I had a clean one. No graphs in there. You can scroll through them through the current graph library. You can switch between depth and elevation. If you click on the information buttons, you get to explore what the query is showing. You can also search in the search bar and look for particular templates you might be interested in. There's also the warning sign that shows potential templates that don't have a complete don't have some of the variables, as long as the main variables, which are x and y, tend to be the depth and the target variable that you're using, as long as those are exist in your data schema and are populated, those templates will work very smoothly. And again, once you've got those warnings, it's just telling you that there are particular fields that are either missing. And it's about just the creation. So it is once you multi-select all those graphs that you want to be working on, it just in a matter of a few seconds. The more you put, obviously, it takes longer. In terms of speed, it's just brilliant. The amount of time one could spend in Excel or similar environments, like trying to set up all these graphs. Is very cumbersome. In terms of changing project, paired with the ability of multi-creation, but in terms of changing project and also pairing with the ability of cloning a collection. So once what downs the collection is cloned, for example, for a particular project, you have another round of the same project, different ground investigation, and you want to produce the same amount or those typical graphs. And then just you want to reuse those same graphs that you had before, but with new data sets, or different project as well. You just go back to multi-select those after cloning that collection, and just again, a couple of clicks, change the project, and then it's about refreshing those graphs, and the data gets just repopulated and new data sets created on the background. You can also follow on the status column on the interface if the generation is just again being refreshed when it's ready, and when the status has changed to successful, and then you can open it up and see that coming from the original project that had quite a few, and we just come back to this, and that's done. That's done for you. Sharing, a very demanded the ability feature, the ability of collaboration. Times where people are working sometimes remotely on office environment or site, anywhere. The idea is here we are enabling you, and it went faster than I can speak. Basically, what's happening here is you go to the collection settings, you set up the email address with the person you want to share. The person who is going to receive that collection needs to have a Giraphe license. And what they are gonna receive is a link, is that email with a link. Once they click on the link, it will change from a status of a clock onto that it's being shared as read only. Or what can happen as well is there's the ability of you're the editor and you're the creator and editor. You share that as you can share collections as read only, or you can share them also as editor. Those collections appear on the user, and as long as you've been the editor, you can keep track of that, and you become a read-only user for the particular collection. Moving on to custom templates, again, something that you asked for, and we also delivered as a first implementation. So what happens with custom templates is that once you've used either you created your own graph, data set, or used a blank graph, you're happy with the scale, you're happy with the color palette, different things. What's up in this particular case, I'm just editing a particular template that Giraphe knows how to create, which is the SPT against depth. I've just changed the axis. I'm picky. You can blame me for that. I like my axis starting from 0 and going to a particular value, and the same knowing that the data in my side goes from 0 to 30 meters. And then I just want to make sure that that's going to happen. I've just also changed my the color palette, because I see better with that choice of color, which the design team have kindly helped us build in terms of accessibility as well. Close relationship on that too, and making sure that we are catering for all abilities and everyone who might be wanting to use Giraphe. And then it's a matter of adding the new template name, a description, because I'm forgetful, or someone can forget about. Sometimes you just want to make sure, like your modeling notes, you want to have something that reminds you what you've done in that particular template, and then it exists in a different part of if Giraphe is part of the My Templates collection, and that particular template you can delete it, but once it's created, it exists within the graph library environment, and that's limited to the particular user. If you want to share the template with someone at the moment, you would have to share a collection or create a clone collection, share it with someone else. They can pick up the graph and then make it part of their own collection. And we've got we've got plans to make easier the journey as well. So something to come in future. In terms of benefits, that was a bit of an overview of all the hard work that the team have been doing. And now in terms of benefits, and just being concise there, what do we mean by cutting to the chase? So we've added functionality like applying filters, or creating the design lines, trend lines, the ability to annotate, so it's report ready, and to allow for those derived parameters, design parameters, easier for the engineers to pick up and then work with them in later stages of a project. And hovering for context, this is dynamic graphing. And this is a key differentiator for us, and moving away from just a PDF or just something static that you've produced. You can reproduce and produce 10 times, but is that ability of looking at the data, querying the data, understanding your data, and making those decisions. What we mean by crunching more data is about having the ability of handling more, and we've worked hard with the CPT data sets that are probably the most exhaustive and extensive data sets we've got to date. We've been collaborating internally with some of the projects ongoing and receiving that feedback and making sure that we are tackling the problem in the right way. And it's not just of how Giraphe gets to OpenGround, handles the data, is also on having the ability of having those smooth templates which allow you to ingest more data without losing the meaning on the site. And then collaboration, essential. No cannot work on silos, and we are trying to help by enabling the ability for yourselves to multi-create graphs, the sharing, reusing, the cloning, the changing the project. So yeah, we've been taking those steps after the feedback we received. So without further ado, there's a couple of testimonials from our app engineers. We've been working close with them. I'm just going to play that for you. And this is Anna from the Copenhagen office.
Hi, my name is Anya Wódzka, and I'm a geotechnical engineer based in our Copenhagen office. I've started using Oasys Giraphe program on M5 project, which is the concept and reference design of the 5th metro line in Copenhagen. On M5 project, Arup works as a part of joint venture with Covey, and we've used Oasys Giraphe as a web-based program connected directly with the OpenGround database, and it allows us to collaborate effectively, meaning in real time between different JV members. We've used Oasys Giraphe to help us with division of the encountered soils to geotechnical units that can be assigned the same geotechnical properties. In Denmark, borehole logs are usually prepared by the geologist prior to the laboratory tests. So these remain unchanged, although the particle size distribution has been done, or the other parameters for this soil were investigated. So even though the borehole log suggests the soil is, for example, sand, it may be rather sandy clay. Here, for example, you can see how easily you can visualize the data and check, for example, clay content for different geotechnical units. Here is clay till, and you can see the clay content, how the clay content differs for the meltwater sands. So for the M5 project, we've split the graphs into different collections depending on the data we looked at. So, for example, Brazil test has like 3 graphs. There are some graphs for the field vein tests, some with PSDs. And what is very nice is that when you have your collection, you can use it afterwards on different projects. So when you mark all your graphs, you can change the project for all the selected graphs and use it elsewhere. But I think what I like the most is the possibility of refreshing live data. So when your graph is connected to the live database, whenever the new data are incoming, or whenever you want to change something in the database, the graph is refreshed automatically almost. Of course, you need to click. So when starting with Giraphe, I simply used the templates that were available, but I think all these templates are so easy to navigate, and you can adjust them easily to the project needs. For example, here you can see UCS versus bulk density for the different iterations of the rock. And all these are from the tests done in the metro station locations for the M5 line. But for this project, we had a lot of historical data from the 4 previous metro lines, and also we received other data from other projects in Copenhagen. So we can very easily here check whether our data set, our rock in our station location fits well with the data for the same unit in Copenhagen. So you can see the no value is the locations of the tests that have not assigned station locations. So you can see here that the data fits well. We've also used Oasys Giraphe for evaluation of the geotechnical parameters for the reference design and check whether the same geotechnical unit, maybe here I have too many geotechnical units, so let's say the DS1, DS2, and DS3 are different at the different station locations. So you can see KH station, LGP station, SBP station, or Uni station. So you can check whether you can assign the same geotechnical parameter or not. I have to admit that I'm very happy that we didn't have to use Excel as a common program to visualize all the data, all the geotechnical data, as the program that both COVI and ARUP has. Yeah, so it was very good use of this program, and I should also mention that Oasys team is very helpful. So whenever we had some suggestions to adjust Oasys Giraphe, they were very helpful and they were taking them into account. So I can also say that during 1 month of use of Giraphe, the new possibilities were added as we were working, and I'm very grateful for it. Thank you.
This was Anna. She's one of the colleagues in the Copenhagen office working up in a particular project, and like she says, it is a conversation. Once with the users, we cannot do this in isolation. It's being able to balance the work, but it's getting what it's needed for those projects and help you with the reporting requirements. And now we will hear also from Michelle Tai, who recently moved from the London office to Hong Kong.
Hello everyone, I'm Michelle and I'm a geotechnical engineer from the Arab London office. Today I'd like to share with you my experience on Giraphe. I've used Giraphe for the past year and it is a very useful tool when it comes to preparing for ground interpretation reports. Essentially, it is a report where we create and prepare for after ground investigations. We obtain the data from the ground and then we process it and then make it into a report. So I'll touch on a few points which I like about Giraphe today. So one of the key features of Giraphe is the seamless integration with OpenGround. So OpenGround is a database designed for storing AGS data. With Giraphe, I can pull the data directly from OpenGround straight away without having to manually input the data one by one. This saves up a lot of time and making it a very efficient workflow. Another aspect of Giraphe that I find impressive is the user interface. The user interface is not only highly interactive, but also incredibly intuitive, making it easy for users to navigate around, even for those who are not very tech savvy. The design of the interface ensures that all the functions are accessible and user-friendly, which significantly enhances the overall user experience. I've always found the guidance provided by the support documentation to be comprehensive and helpful. Additionally, the Oasys Giraphe team is always ready to help and assist with any queries. They are very responsive and willing to help with anything you've encountered. I highly recommend and encourage everyone to try out the software. The overall user experience for me is very positive, so thank you everyone for listening. I hope this feedback would help you understand the benefits of using Giraphe in your own work.
Brilliant. So, yeah, I think I can hand over back to you, Mark, for a recap.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ro. Let's take control. I think we're there. Okay, so yeah, just a very quick recap from me. So of the webinar, we explained what Giraphe it is. It's the our dynamic graphing integration for OpenGround that hopefully helps you to build geotechnical graphs, especially the common ones you need routinely on geotechnical projects really easily and smoothly, and also refresh them as the data changes over time as in the project life cycle. So yeah, that's essentially what Giraphe is. We've showed you essentially what we've been working on over the last 6 months, so a lot of new features and templates, but to summarize those, filtering has been yeah, greatly expanded, so you can filter any variable in your data set and stack those filters up, which really allows you to get into the data, as Raoul explained earlier. Trend lines we've added. You can draw them yourself, as you may do when coming up with a design line, when trying to take a design a parameter forward for use in a project, or you can generate them statistically using a least squares method. You can annotate those with the formula, as you may like to present it, and also we've added some sort of color and line thickness options to make them a bit more distinguishable and personalized. So that's a filtering and trend line. CPTs, a lot of work behind the scenes really to make CPTs work, especially in larger numbers. They're very data heavy, so making that come through and adding smoothing as well, 100 mil and 50 mil buckets to allow that process to be a bit more seamless. So parallel graph creation, the next one, making those graphs appear, well, you can produce them at the same time, a list of graphs, rather than having to go through and produce each one, which is a big step. And then getting into the ability to change the project that a graph is looking at. Combine that with the ability to share a collection of graphs and clone a selection of graphs. That's a really key piece of functionality that essentially allows you to have a nice curated set of graphs on a project. And if you've got another project that's similar, you can then reuse them. So you're not starting from scratch each time. Just change the project in OpenGround that they're looking at, and off you go. Good to go. And then lastly, personal custom templates. Raoul showed you. So it's a first step towards customizing. But it allows you to essentially save the setup of a graph and then reuse it yourself. But you can, of course, then share that by the methods we've just outlined. Okay, and then we explain how they help you overall, Giraphe and these new features. I won't go through them again because yeah, we've been through a couple of times, but hopefully that came across strongly. And then we heard from a couple of engineers, Arab engineers, that have been using Giraphe on real projects. It's great to hear that feedback. So hopefully that was a succinct recap. I'm going to hand over back to Norbert now.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark and Raoul. Very helpful. Just before we move on to the Q&A section, first of all, I would like to ask everyone to think about any questions you might have before we jump onto the Q&As. But I also wanted to just basically invite you to join us on our journey to the cloud. And as Raoul mentioned, as you could see, we do take the feedback of our customers very seriously. Hopefully, these feedbacks are assisting everyone. So depending on what kind of feedback we have, it can be implemented as soon as within a few weeks or a bit longer time period. But just like every other software of ours, Giraphe Giraphe also has a user-led development. So we are always looking for volunteers. So if you would like to test any of our latest features, do let me know, anyone else in the team know, and we will be able to set this up for you. Similarly, if you have any questions about Giraphe, or if you'd like to go ahead and purchase the software, you can drop me a message now. And if you're interested in it in 6 months or 1 year's time, the idea is to create that connection, and then we can take it forward from there. Yes, and when you use Giraphe, you're going to have the full technical support provided to you. As you could hear, it was very high quality, so you have a whole team behind you. I would like to thank all of our presenters. Thank you so much for your time and effort. And yes, hopefully I will see you soon at one of our future webinars, or indeed, if you have any questions, you can contact us through our oasys@arup.com, or you can still drop me a message here within Teams.